solar upscaling rooftop, scaling up rooftop solar development in Bangladesh. We're pleased to get connected with our chief guest, Mohammad Hussain. He will be joined little late after 10 minutes of starting the program. He's the Director General of Power Cell Bangladesh, and our special guest joining from the New Delhi, Mrs. Vibhuti Garg, Regional Director, South Asia, Director, South Asia, IFA. Mr. Shafiqul Alam, Lead Analyst, Bangladesh, IFA, will present the keynote paper. Our panelist, Dr. Ijaz Hussain, former Dean, BUET, Mr. Alamgir Murshid, Executive Director and CEO, ITCOL, and Engineer Nurul Akhtar, President, Bangladesh Solar and Renewable Energy Association and Director, Energy PAC, will take part as a panelist. I'm Mullah Amjad on behalf of Energy and Power. Welcome you all to the discussion. We all know Bangladesh lags behind others in the renewable expansion, but the country is the pioneer to providing electricity to the off-grid area across the country by installing solar home system. However, the solar home system have lost ground by now, as Bangladesh has successfully reached grid power its every corner. But other countries are replacing our experience on the solar home system model, lighting their own people on, especially in the off-grid. Currently, the promotion of rooftop solar system is gaining ground in Bangladesh, and due to the limited land availability, the industrial rooftop system is now becoming a popular model after the announcement of the net metering policy. Around 100 megawatt of solar electricity has already been connected to the grid from the solar rooftop project, and their policy planner target by 2030 we will start more than 300 the 3,000 megawatt from the solar rooftop. However, challenges are growing gradually about the getting sustainable finance to achieve the target. In this regards, now I have my privilege to invite Mr. Shafiqul Alam, Lead Energy Analyst, Bangladesh, IFA, to present his keynote paper. Please try to make it by 15 minutes, 15 to 20 minutes. Janab Shafiqul Alam.
Thank you, Amjad Bhai. So, although the Honorable Chief Guest has not yet joined, so Honorable special guest, key discussants, participants, very good morning to all of you. So, the topic today we have chosen is scaling up rooftop solar deployment in Bangladesh. So, before moving to the discussion on that, let me tell you briefly about IFA, the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis. IFA is a non-profit.
Can you please make it full screen?
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Yeah, I made it full screen. Let me check.
Oh, I'm seeing yeah.
Okay.
I mean yeah. Get rid of the thing on the left hand side.
Okay.
Just stop. Yeah. Just click
okay.
on.
Now fine.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis, IFA, is a non-profit impact think tank. We operate across the globe, and we produce significant amount of independent public interest research and analysis on issues related to energy markets, trends, regulations, and policy in line with our vision to accelerate a diverse and sustainable clean energy transition across the globe. Okay, so to provide the background of today's discussion, so we are all aware that roofs are a great resource for generating highly cost competitive solar energy. Yet the progress, particularly in Bangladesh, appears slow. We also see that the interest in taking up rooftop solar systems among different building owners appears quite scattershot. Information asymmetry and capacity gap also persist in the sector. And as Mullah Amjad Bhai has mentioned, the finance, that is a key challenge. People find it extremely difficult in accessing finance in many cases. So against this background, we actually conducted a detailed study titled Towards the Rooftop Solar Transition in Bangladesh last year. And we released that on 14th December 2023. And we holistically assessed the rooftop solar sector of Bangladesh and identified key challenges and offered probable solutions. So as I mentioned, major focus of the study was the challenges of the rooftop solar sector and how we can address challenges and policy level intervention to change the status quo surrounding rooftop solar. And in doing so, we followed several basic steps, and we studied the background of the rooftop solar sector of Bangladesh, including policy, regulation, and different successful cases. And then we also identified the key areas where the intervention is needed. And then we also conducted the targeted interviews involving sectoral experts. And then we synthesized interview responses, identified key challenges, and then based on that, we actually prepared the policy prescription. So if you look into the rooftop solar regulation, so first of its kind directive was provided by the government in 2010 amid the growing deficit between demand and supply of energy that was particularly given to the new building owners to install up to a certain level of their sanction load to harness at least a certain level of their demand from the solar energy. That was in 2010, and almost a decade later in 2018, the net metering guidelines was issued to incentivize buildings with three-phase connection. And later on, it was revised in 2019, and in 2020, 2021, during this period, this particular project category was included in the sustainable finance taxonomy of the central bank, and it is eligible for receiving a low-cost refinancing scheme of the central bank. And however, there are challenges because import duty is applicable for solar panel and also other accessories related to rooftop solar. And very recent circular that actually eventually released in the later quarter of last quarter of 2023 that enables buildings with even single phase connection to implement rooftop solar under net metering guideline. If you look into the present status of installed capacity, when we released the study last year, it was 160.63 megawatt, 160.63 megawatt until 10th October 2023. And now if we see data on March 1, it is 166.28. So if we consider the overall consider that there are several thousand industries, so then we can clearly understand the installed capacity is not significant. However, last year was very prolific compared to the previous decade, because during this period, we see that 42.04 megawatt was installed during the 10th month of 2023. So that is an encouraging sign amid this energy and power sector problems. And economics of rooftop solar, if we see the rising trend of tariffs that actually substantiate the economics of rooftop solar implementation in Bangladesh, both for industry and commercial building that falls within the bracket of 50 kilowatt and 5 megawatt sanction load, their tariffs have been increased by 27.5% between December 2022 and February 2024. So over a period of 14 months. So that is a significant amount. So that eventually triggers industries and commercial buildings to implement rooftop solar. If you look into the levelized cost of energy, so that is roughly around Taka 5 US dollar 0.046 per kilowatt hour. So this means industries at current tariff for the within the bracket of 5 megawatt sanction load can save up to Taka 5.88 per kilowatt hour. That is $0.054 per kilowatt hour by installing rooftop solar system. However, for if we can achieve economies of scale in the industries that have more capacity to install larger system, their levelized cost will be even lower. And savings will be higher for commercial buildings because they have the higher tariffs. And we assess that a combined capacity of 2,000 megawatt rooftop solar could help Bangladesh save between $500 million and $1 billion per annum by reducing expensive well-based power generation. It was based on 2021 and 2022 data. And if we see data of last year, we can see that it will be roughly between $0.6 billion and $1 billion per annum. And this is how BPDB can also reduce its revenue shortfall. On the other hand, last year we experienced a significant load shedding during day peak. So rooftop solar can also help minimize load shedding. So what are the factors then affecting rooftop solar expansion in Bangladesh? So we found five key areas. One is the stakeholders' priority and motivation, finance, market and quality assurance, lack of business models for utilities, and regulatory issues. So while government formulated the net metering guidelines and revised it, and also particularly Sustainable and Renewable Energy Development Authority conduct periodic awareness raising campaigns, we still see that priority level is not that high among the building owners. That is roughly 1/3 of the industry people, they feel they want to implement rooftop solar on a priority basis. And among 1/3, the interest is growing. So this is because people are still unaware. A certain segment of the building owners are still unaware of the benefits of the rooftop solar. And some have doubts because of the past experience that to obtain the grid connection, they had to install rooftop solar, but all those rooftop solar to obtain grid connection over the last decade actually became junk because of due to lack of proper monitoring from the utility side, and also, problems with the building owners. And the priority level is also this low priority level is also a reflection of the challenges in accessing finance. So the assumption is that market will drive the shift to rooftop solar because it is cheaper, because it is economically efficient. However, financial institutions, from our discussion with the experts, we found that they have little motivation to extend loans to rooftop solar projects. While ITCOL considers rooftop solar a priority, most financial institutions do not. And ITCOL alone can only meet a fraction of the funding needs of the sector if we want to generate quite a substantial amount of energy from this sector. And financial institution prefers fresh security, since existing industries are already mortgaged to other lenders against their previous loan. And so they also want to get the loan fully secured. Bank guarantees, personal guarantees, and other assets such as land are sought, and building owners, particularly, for example, industries, they often don't want to provide so much security. And we also have lack of risk mitigation instruments, such as credit risk guarantee scheme. We don't have. We see that projects under OPEX model are increasing, but still EPC companies prefer CAPEX model. In the OPEX model, they also in many cases, they face the similar challenges in accessing finance like industries face. And the green financing scheme that we have, that is the least cost financing instrument available in the market, that offers loan at up to 5% interest rate, but there is information asymmetry. Still, some stakeholders feel the interest rate is much higher. They don't know that the interest rate is up to 5%. And the process is also cumbersome in, the accessing finance from the central bank. And there is another challenge. For example, the funding size is only 4 billion taka, that is US dollar 36.4 million, but 70 environment-friendly projects, including rooftop solar, compete for this tiny amount of finance. So there is a huge competition. So that funding is not enough. And as I also mentioned, ITCOL has priority, but that ITCOL alone will also not be able to meet the need of the sector. Market demand and related factors. So EPC companies have said, yeah, they are receiving quite significant requests, but investors are dilly-dallying in making the final decision on rooftop solar implementation. And that's why they have downgraded their expectation in the immediate future. And there is the challenge of delay issuing letter of credits due to foreign currency crisis. In last 1 year or so, we experienced that the banks are delaying the LC opening process. That also is affecting rooftop solar system. While people believe big EPCs have a good capacity and they can also implement project with quality, however, the small service providers, they do not have sufficient capacity, and small companies often make aggressive offers to tempt industries to take up solar projects, but they cannot maintain quality and they also compromise on many aspects. And so these also affect the implementation of the project. And in the event there is a surging demand for rooftop solar, people feel that with the current capacity of the EPC and service provider, they will not be able to fully fulfill the demand of the market if there is a sudden demand for, let's say, 500 or 1,000 megawatt or 1,000 megawatt rooftop solar. Quality issue of accessories. In OPEX model, the chance of quality compromise in quality is limited, but in small projects and also small companies implementing projects, there are cases of quality issues. And people also have the negative experience that I mentioned about the installation of rooftop solar to get the connection, because those systems deliver little or no energy at all. Utilities normally are accustomed to sending electricity in one direction from their centralized power systems, but now that they are actually allowing to flow from the decentralized system, although they are not worried much based on our discussion, but still they need revenue to remain motivated, because rooftop solar, if a significant amount of rooftop solar system is installed, then they will lose revenue from high-paying industrial commercial consumers that may affect their business. So they need a business model, although they are not profit-driven in Bangladesh, but revenue from rooftop solar will certainly motivate them. And so two of the models we analyzed, we see that either utility-owned business model or third-party owned business model, this can help generate revenue. In utility-owned business model, utilities will take the loan. However, EPC company will install, for which CapEx and OPEX cost will be borne by utility. However, utility earned from the payment against the solar energy. On the other hand, in third-party owned business model, EPC company will take loan, utility will earn from the one-off facilitation fee and margin for solar energy supplied to the consumers. The regulatory policy and incentive perspective. So SREDA's web portal and help desk, so that are helping the sector. However, stakeholders raise the concern that many investors and bankers are not fully aware of the SREDA's service. And people are of the opinion that the help desk should pursue follow-up activities to determine how, to what extent people have implemented these projects, who actually contacted solar help desks, and out of them, to what extent they have implemented, and why others are not implementing rooftop solar. And stakeholders also feel that it is the time to assess the effectiveness of the help desk. So to what extent it has performed in the last almost 2.5 years, and what can actually help improve the service of the help desk. In terms of incentive, actually rooftop solar is disproportionately affected by high import duties as opposed to utility scale solar. Tax incidence on import duty on solar panel 1%, but it eventually becomes 11.2%. This is because additional taxes are applicable on 1% custom duty. And likewise, 4 other accessories, FRP walkways, inverters, mounting structures, and DC cables are subject to import duties of ranging from 15.25 to 58.6%. These eventually increase the project cost. So there is a restriction of 70% on the installation capacity of rooftop solar of up to 70% of the sanctioned load. So let's say industry. Many industries and commercial building may not even fulfill 70% capacity, but some can install more than that capacity. So stakeholders feel that, yeah, if government can lift it, so some of the industries will be able to install more capacity, and that will also help increase the renewable energy share to our national grid. So the assumption that if the cap is lifted, then they might become net exporter, but in most of the times it is an unlikely scenario that industries or commercial building will be a net exporter. And how to change the status quo? So we tried to assess the interest and capacity of major stakeholders, SREDA, utilities, industries, financial institutions, commercial buildings, our association, BSREA, and EPC companies. So we found highest interest among the EPC. That is very obvious because they want to do the business. And then we found interest in SREDA, just it is on the higher side. We also found similar interest within BSREA, but interest is just more than average among the industry respondents, and that is lower for financial institutions and very low for commercial building. But when we look into the capacities, SREDA has more than average capacity, but EPCs need to enhance their capacity. That is also more than average, but that is not up to the significant level required to achieve the sustainability of the sector. And the thing is, SREDA needs to support. Of course, they are supporting. They need to ramp up their effort on enhancing capacity of the different stakeholders, including financial institutions, industries, commercial buildings, so that they can pursue the rooftop solar. They also need to raise awareness because people still have information asymmetry on the benefits of the rooftop solar and also on the cost of financing. SREDA can also work in cooperation with the power division to waive the duty, import duty, at least for a limited period, to assess the impact, what implication what results it bring, to at least to observe that maybe for 6 months or 1 year. And of course, important dimension is SREDA also needs to develop its own capacity, its own member, because to steer the whole sector, not because they also have the responsibility of spearheading energy efficiency and developing policy. So they also need to improve their own capacity. BSREA as an apex body of the sector, so they have been working on policy advocacy, but still people feel that BSREA should be more effective. They should play a more important role in the policy advocacy and also to enhance capacity of the EPC companies, financial institution. That can be also based on fee, but they need to design the business model, and they also need to ensure their own member sustainability. And other stakeholders should also step up. So yeah, based on all this, we actually designed 6 key levers so that that Bangladesh can adopt to accelerate rooftop solar. So this is because Bangladesh needs to design a market that incentivizes and de-risks investment in rooftop solar to increase the pace of implementation and achieve scale. And whatever policy and regulatory measures that we can put in place, so that will actually set the course of rooftop solar for the foreseeable future. And the good thing is, policymakers do not need to start afresh and reinvent the wheel. Instead, they should enhance the effectiveness of the existing measures and incorporate successful schemes implemented elsewhere. So first of the thing, 6 key levers is raising awareness that SREDA has been doing, but they should increase the pace and also conduct targeted awareness for effectiveness, and they should also work on the policy changes. And finance measure.
Sorry to interrupt, please.
Just 1 more minute. It will just take 1 minute. Yeah. So streamlining finance. So finance is a major challenge. So one of the things that we discussed already, the credit risk guarantee scheme that can actually mitigate some of the risks that financial institutions feel in financing rooftop solar project. But we also need long-term financing. That is the 400 crore taka that we have mentioned, and also the ITCOL scheme that won't be sufficient. So financial institutions need to work on that. Multilateral Development Bank, supported by Multilateral Development Bank, Central Bank can also create another scheme for that. And policy and regulatory intervention, as we mentioned, the cap can be waived, lifted, and other important thing is SFREDA can work with the National Board of Revenue to make this rooftop solar as a priority intervention so that the LC opening process can be eased. And for quality assurance, we don't have sufficient testing lab, so we need to increase the number. And also BSTI needs to enhance market monitoring to ensure that only quality rooftop solar accessories are available in the market. And capacity development, that is again, SFREDA will will have to play the major role, and business model that we have mentioned, those two models can help utilities increase their motivation and sustainability. So last thing, these key levers that we have mentioned will help in the faster deployment of rooftop solar and deliver benefits to both energy consumers, service providers, utilities, and also government. And the import dependence that has caused serious upheavals in Bangladesh energy sector, leading to the price hikes in last 2 years and forcing industries to operate at lower capacities. So speeding up rooftop solar transition will help strengthen the power sector's resilience, reduce import dependence, and give consumers some energy independence. Of course, we also agree that rooftop solar is not the panacea, but it should be central to our energy sector development. And we should advance rooftop solar deployment gradually and ensure sustainability while drawing lessons from past examples like rooftop solar. So other things are included in the annex and in our report. So I will share the presentation, and you can find the link to the report there. And thank you so much for your patience.
Thank you so much, Mr. Alam, for your nice presentation. I will get back to you if we get any question from our participant. Dear media friends and other guests, welcome again, all of you. Our chief guest is still not joining, but we hope he will be joined by next 5-6 minutes. I'm going forward to next step of our webinar. Now, I would like to invite Engineer Nurul Akhtar, President, Bangladesh Solar and Renewable Energy Association, Director, Energy Pack, to discuss in 6 minutes to challenge policy bindings and policy obligations and government assistance to help expand solar rooftop systems. Mr. Nurul Akhtar.
Thank you, Mr. Amjad, for arranging this webinar. Special thanks to Mr. Shafiq for giving an elaborate presentation. He covered almost all the aspects of rooftop, challenge, way forward, and policy directives. I will just highlight the issues which is not being covered. One issue, it is definitely sure that rooftop is one of the window to contribute in achieving the Mujib Prosperity Plan RE object achievement. And at this moment, it is the right window. No doubt of rooftop benefits, but why it is not progressing and getting a pace. There are challenges. One is the challenge of mindset. This is very important thing. The awareness is there, whether you will use your roof as a kitchen garden or rooftop garden, or you will install the solar panel. So this is a mindset. How much carbon dioxide you are producing and how much carbon dioxide you are saving, and whether it is economically fruitful for going for the kitchen garden or going for the rooftop. And another issue is there, useful surface of the roof. As we do not have inclusion in the building, national building code, so it is not the priority matter. So it has to be included in the BNBC code and with the load safety factor. Also, the third issue is the fire safety issue. So most of the building now needs the fire safety department approval. So in that case, how much is the spareable roof? So combination of your desired mindset and the permissible area, rooftop has to be designed. So first priority is to immediately include it in the building code. Then we can get relief of excess overload in the building. If we consider in the design stage, that will be more accountable. Another issue is the structure, duty structure. Still, the net metering, the components have from 26 to 9.
Mr. Nurul Akhtar, unmute, please. You're muted.
Muted, unmuted.
Oh, okay. Please carry on.
So duty structure is another issue where still the rooftop components are under the duties from 26.7 to 98%, depending on the different component. In compared to the utility scale solar or IPP, which is fully waived. So this is another issue to address. The rooftop has some limitation regarding the connectivity. That up to the 70% of the sanction load you can use, which should be waived, and it should be free, so maximum energy can be harvested. There is a output level limitation of 10 megawatt. You cannot go beyond the 10 megawatt, but there are industries, there are entrepreneurs who can easily go for the higher. So you can avoid the long procedure of LOI and other things like IPP. You can accommodate these things in the system more than 10 megawatt. Single phase consumer was not included, but recently single phase consumer included. But unfortunately, the readiness of the system is not there. That is a single phase net metering not available in the market. So this is again a constraint for covering the wide scope, wide area of single phase. Low interest rate, still the project is being financed by ITCOL mostly, but ITCOL also have the limitation. The commercial banks are not coming forward because of some issues like collateral, then payment guarantee, so many factors, and low interest rate with a high tenor. So this can, if the access to finance can be more easier, then more and more people can will install the rooftop solar system. So bankability is still a problem, and licensee EPC, which is very important. The flawless design engineering and capable contractor under the license, like normal electrical installation, it is been quality being checked by the ABC license. We have been advocating for this issue long time, that all the contractor must carry, which should be approved by the SREDA, the license. Without the license, you will see the installations cannot be done flawlessly. So this is another issue to be addressed. In way forward, we have mentioned many of the issues, but there are three sectors. One is the government roof, official establishment roof, commercial roof, industrial roof, and residential. All this roof, it has to be under some mandate that in first phase, ministry level compulsion of installing rooftop system to be prioritized first. And under the building code, the NBC, the commercial and industrial to give a regulation where it can be easily installed. When we design and engineering done, then fire service, the due diligence fire service decline, then initial our efforts has go in vain. So the policy matter for the approval by the fire service and BNBC inclusion is a mandatory for right this moment. And government and in the residential scale, net meter availability to be done, so that a big area to be brought under this network, and people, the awareness campaign about the net metering is not much. So as regard the BSRE, we are advocating, we are building the awareness for the benefit of rooftop and usefulness of the rooftop. So government, SEDA, BSRE, power division work together and convince the NBR the benefit of rooftop, of how much we save in importing fuel. Rooftop is a window where we can contribute substantially in the clean energy transition movement. And a clean energy transition, there is three component: energy efficiency, renewable energy, and clean energy. So rooftop is a sector window where with a minimum investment, we can harvest the maximum benefit. And so rooftop to be prioritized. And I believe with the presentation, and I just mentioned few things which is essential for removing the challenges and way forward to contribute in the clean energy transition movement. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you, Engineer Nurul Akhtar, and welcome our chief guest, Engineer Mohammad Hussain, Director General PowerCell. He already joining with us. And I request admin to take some group photo of us, and I request all participants to open their video camera. Please help us to open your camera now for a group photograph. And admin, please take 2-3 photos. And please let me know if you finish take your photo. Admin, it's okay? Admin, okay? You take the photo? Just a moment. Actually, he hopefully admin take the photos, and thank you so much for your kind cooperation. We all know ITCOL is promoting rooftop solar expansion in the country with the financing and technical assistance. I would now like to request the Chief Executive Director and Chief Executive Officer of ITCOL, Mr. Alamgir Murshid, to give us some highlights regarding their work and the future challenge of rooftop solar project financing. Please try to limit your thoughts within 6 minutes. Mr. Alamgir Murshid.
Abdul, thank you. Assalamu alaikum and good morning and good afternoon. First, I would like to thank Mr. Shafiq Alam for a very comprehensive presentation. In fact, he has covered almost all the points on opportunities and challenges of solar rooftop in Bangladesh. ITCOL is a state-owned non-banking financial institution, and one of our major focus area is renewable energy, and obviously the solar rooftop is one of our key programs within the renewable energy mandate. So far, ITCOL has financed around 50 megawatt of industrial solar rooftop across the country. And by the year 2025, which I should say is a bit of a modest target, to install or finance 300 megawatt of solar rooftop, because in terms of the demand side, in last 1 year, we have seen a sudden jump in the demand for solar rooftop investment from our clients and potential clients. And the reasons for that increase in demand has been very well covered by Mr. Shafiq Alam. Basically because the solar rooftop now makes a lot of economic sense because of the increase in tariff. While access to finance definitely remains an issue, because the financing that we provide as ITCOL is concessional in nature. So, these are local currency lending for 10 years at a rate of 5 to 5.5%, where the local currency yield interest rate is way beyond 10%. So, one can debate that if you rebase the lending rate to the commercial rate, how far will these rooftop projects be feasible? And the funds that are provided by the commercial banks or financial institutions are predominantly funded by the special window of the central bank, and which are also concessional loans. However, saying that, we see a huge demand from the corporate Bangladesh for this kind of investment, especially in the solar rooftop. There are twofold. One is obviously the differential in the tariff between the commercial rate and the power generated by the rooftop projects, but also Bangladesh being one of the largest exporter of ready-made garments and textile. The global brands have, there's a lot of pressure from the global brands also to in the supply chain to increase the portion of the renewable energy generation. So what we see that our RMG and the textile industry is going for the solar rooftop investment. Very rightly pointed out that the major hurdle that we see in terms of the opportunity is obviously the confidence and trust. So what we do as a financial institution, which is very unique, that we also provide technical support, because many of these, whether it is CapEx or OpEx, the technical capacity, I think, still is an issue. And there's a lot of work that ITCOL we do in terms of capacity building, and we help in the technical enhancement of the technical knowledge. Awareness is obviously also something that ITCOL had been working on for last few years in terms of promoting the whole idea of renewable energy, and which also includes solar rooftop. Because the initial investment, some of the, which really kind of impacted the confidence of the end users is the solar roof top, this solar rooftop we had in the residential houses. I think that did not, was something which really kind of, brought a bad name for the solar rooftop technology as a whole. And people did lose confidence in this technology. But thanks to the, the latest technical innovation across the globe, where the technological advancement has reduced the cost and also has increased the efficiency of the solar panels, and which is kind of reviving the confidence in the technology. So I think that is also helping the adaptation of solar rooftop. And the way we see that, I think the 300 megawatt target that we have set for 2025, at least ITCOL will be achieving that sooner. We should be doing it at least a year ahead of that. But again, the aspiration that we have, the capacity that we see is around 2,000 to 3,000 megawatt. 300 megawatt or 400 megawatt is just a drop of water in the ocean. And I think we need to have a collective agenda, and there's a lot of work that the government agencies are working on it. For example, how could we introduce solar rooftop in the government buildings? That is already in progress. we have also, ITCOL is financing some of these solar rooftop projects for the commercial buildings and the educational institutions. So I think that's a great progress. Apart from the commercial sector, we see the government in their facilities also adopting the solar rooftop, which should be a significant progress. If I just take the example of few neighboring countries who have been very successful in the solar rooftop, for example, Thailand and Vietnam, something here we have our DG Power Cell, Mr. Mohammed Hossein. I'm sure he understands it, or he knows about it. It has its own challenges, but I think the feed-in tariff had played a very significant role in some of the neighboring countries in Vietnam and Thailand for really ramping up this capacity of solar rooftop generation. Though it has its challenges, but if it is well designed and implemented, I think the feed-in tariff can play a very significant role in terms of promoting solar rooftop. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that where I sit, ITCOL, we see a huge opportunity in the solar rooftop expansion. The net metering policy adopted by the government has been extremely useful. It has really created those opportunities. The increase in tariff, which is again being taken up by the government agency, has been hugely helpful in terms of the economics of solar rooftop investment. So all in all, the future looks great. And I think, we see a lot of our end users really coming forward to adopt the solar rooftop. Finance definitely remains an issue, but I think with the increase in the tariff differential, the banks, especially the private commercial banks and even the non-banking financial institutions, will find some of these projects bankable, and that is that will bring a paradigm shift in terms of the investment in solar rooftop. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Alamgir Mushrik, for your kind information regarding the sector. You rightly pointed out the big problem is confident, and in Bangladesh, actually getting low-cost fund for the low-cost fund and long-term fund, getting low-cost and long-term fund is a big challenge. And in the other hand, there is some laws and taxation difficulties in this sector. Hopefully, government will look after these things in next upcoming budget. Now, we're forwarding for our next speaker, energy and environment expert, Professor Dr. Ijaz Hussain, former Dean, BUET, our last panelist. I would like to request him to discuss how rooftop can contribute to export-oriented industry to achieve green compliance. I would request him to touch upon if it would help industry cut spending on fuel. Please, your time also 6 minutes. Try to make the time.
Thank you, Mullah Amjad, and I'm really delighted to join this seminar or webinar, whatever it's called. Rooftop solar is something that we've been talking recently quite extensively. I've attended maybe at least 10 seminars and workshops, conferences in various places on this matter. Now, the thing is that, this thing should be happening on its own, given the efforts of various people, okay? But when we look at the data of exact what is happening or what has happened, it's quite disappointing. I have to say it is very, very disappointing. Now, I'm not a renewable energy expert. The experts have mentioned what are the problems in this. And I personally believe that the government has done a lot, but somewhere within the government, especially those managing the grid, there is a hesitation. They're afraid, and I'm sure that they're afraid because at times they feel they might not be able to manage the grid if the rooftop solar becomes very high And we are also having a lot of grid-tied power plants coming in. Now, IEEFA did a study, and we also have our own studies which show that we can go up to 3,000 megawatt in this condition that we are in. Now, yeah, which is kind of considering both winter and summer. But there are other experts around the world who have cautioned the government that, be careful about these developments, because you will not be able to manage the grid. It's actually, this problem has occurred even in a developed country like Japan. They faced a problem in managing the grid because they had huge oversubscribed rooftop solar. Vietnam also faced a similar power problem recently. And so there are good lessons to be learned around the world, but I would request the government to be more helpful in terms of rooftop solar and grid-tied power plants. Now, the question, coming back to the question that Mullah Amjad mentioned, let me point out one thing. There is a new law which has gone into effect in the EU, European Union. It's called CBAM, Carbon Border Adjustment Mechanism. Now, what does this say? What it says is that because of this climate change concerns and benchmarking of the emissions from different products, European Union will not allow products from other countries unless they meet a certain sort of benchmark. So what happens if you don't? Well, they'll tax you. Right now, the CBAM applies to what is called energy intensive products like steel, aluminum, fertilizer. It does not apply to textile products. But I've talked to many people, and many people, it's only a matter of time because before this is applied. And it will be applied to our garments export to EU. Now, if our garments are not prepared at that time, then they will face a lot of difficulty because either they will not be able to export, or the exports, the orders will not come in from Europe, or they will have to pay this extra tax to meet CBAM. So what can they do? Well, they can do a lot. There are two elements of sustainability, and they now have to submit sustainability reports. All these industries, especially the larger ones. There are two aspects. One is energy efficiency. The other is renewable energy. Now, energy efficiency is something which is also not progressing as well as it should in Bangladesh, because again, there is awareness problems and all these kind of things. And I'm working in that area a lot to help industries to become more compliant by getting into more energy efficiency. The other thing which can they do is use rooftop renewable on site. They can actually do renewable projects outside their site and claim as part of their net zero progress or towards net zero commitment. So they can do that. But the first step is to do the at home right now what they have. Now the question is how much rooftop do they have? I mean, now there are industries which have a lot of rooftop, and their connected load is not that high, so they can actually export to the grid also. But then there are others. There is another problem in Bangladesh which I discovered lately, which is that a large portion of our industries have captive generation, and their generation cost is actually not 11 taka. You see, the problem is that there is about no more than 6 taka. So their incentive, straightforward incentive to go for, and there are the larger industries, about 3,000 megawatt are captive generation. They do not have a very large incentive to go for a, but for compliance reason and other things, they can go for it. And these people should be encouraged as far as possible with all the things which the speaker said to come into the fold. Another problem here is that if they have a very large rooftop, and they can let's say 20-30% of their demand can be met, 30-40% of the demand can be met from rooftop solar, they will have a problem with intermittency. How will they handle intermittency when they have captive generation? Okay, because it's you would want to advocate that they will shut down their captive generation and take from the solar. They will replace 30%. But if there is a rainy day or a cloudy day, how will they manage that? So what we are proposing, and I talked to our chief guest, that allow these industries to take an exchange with the grid. Those industries which are taking electricity from the grid, they have no problem. It's very good for them because the grid is a backup for their whole system, and they can easily, and they actually get the benefit of the 5 taka that Shafiqul Alam talked about. So we have to look into that. I was always a believer in FIT, feed-in tariff. I always believed in feed-in tariff. I worked for it, but the Bangladesh government actually cooperated and we developed the rules, but they never did it. Now that shows that they have a hesitancy and they're afraid. Okay, so they opted for net metering, which is much safer. But as I heard from the speakers, even in net metering, they put in so many barriers and restrictions of who can do it, who can't do it, what percent, 70%, 30%. They have made it tight. So if you really believe in this thing, you need to open this up much more, get more funding in, so that concessionary funding in with it. Because experts have told me that the payback period is fairly long. I don't know. Shafiqul Alam did not mention the payback period. I hope he will mention that. Somebody said it's more than 5 years. So I don't know whether the calculation was done with the present difference in electricity prices or the older one, but the 5-year payback period is a barrier for our entrepreneurs. So you see, there are several issues that need to be handled. The first I mentioned is to remove the fear from the grid operator, the dispatcher of electricity, that you can handle 3,000 megawatt of. Very interesting. The other day, just a few days back, I saw there was one day when on top of coal-fired power plant there was only solar. Very interesting. And they must have had some problems at that point because our coal-fired power plant is operated by private sectors. It's not possible to tell the private sector to turn down. You can tell this to government power plants. It's very difficult because they are paid on a kilowatt hour basis, number one. And if they turn it down, they need more coal to generate. So there are issues. And even with 500 megawatt going into the grid in a winter day, we saw a situation where the grid was a bit stressed. I saw that thing. Anyways, I will not elongate my speech. I think that the garments industry and the textile industry, for their own benefit, for their sustainability, they should look into it. And I think they will. I think eventually they will, because they have no choice. Because to meet CBM and other requirements of the net zero and other things, you will have to do energy efficiency and you have to exploit the whole amount of renewable energy capacity that is there on site. In future, they may have to do this kind of projects in somebody else's rooftop and claim this. So I think that the garments industry can do, but I think that we should not rely only on garments industry. We may think that there are so many industries and so much percentage, but a lot of these industries are small. Their rooftop is not big. So we should try to get rooftop in all industries, not just garment related industries, and also public buildings, institutions, schools, and other things should also come under rooftop. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Izzas, for your kind words. Actually, you discussed a lot of things, especially the green compliance coming up in the near future for our textile industry. But we all know the Europe is the big market for Bangladesh after USA. So government also try to help our industry, and industrialists also make their compliance for the exporting countries. We're almost in last stage. Before going to our special guest and chief guest, the floor is open for 5 minutes. If any of our participant and journalist friend, if you have any question or any comments, please identify yourself and limit your time in 1 minute and deliver your question or comments. Please, floor is open now.
So Amjad Bhai, so while they put their question, so can I address some of the things that our esteemed speakers mentioned? I mean, some of the things.
Yeah, sure, but just allow me 1 minute. I check again. Anyone can make any question or comments on these figures from the participant?
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Jahid, please.
Yeah, this is Jahid Hassan from Bangladesh Power Development Board. So thank you, Mr. Shafiq and all other discussion for nice presentation regarding the solar rooftop. So I just want to point out how we can scale up solar rooftop. All things already mentioned by Shafiq. So there is a lot of challenges as well as opportunities. So I just want to point out some things about zone-specific roadmap for solar rooftop escalation that is needed, because to stabilize our grid system, we need the consumer concentric power generation. So if we consider solar rooftop for consumers like economic zones, we have hundreds plus economic zones where solar rooftop is a most promising renewable source, we can say. So this type of zone-specific roadmap is needed. Another thing is the integrated approach is needed for solar rooftop. If you choose one industry belt, but that roof is very old, then that is not fruitful case for rooftop. So if we plan in an integrated approach to establish the solar rooftop from the beginning, from the planning of the industry, so that will be more fruitful. And another thing is regarding the O&M that is missing here. Actually, to build up public confidence about solar rooftop, we need regular maintenance of the facility. You see, in our Dhaka city, we have some solar rooftop, but its output is not so significant. That is because of we have so much dust in our air, and that's why its output sometimes is not the in good output or not significant output we achieve. So this is the thing. So that lose public confidence about this type of technology.
Thank you, Mr. Jahid.
Just I want to finish. So to make public confident, if we regular maintain the solar panel, then that can give you more output. So this is the case. Thank you.
You are welcome. You're welcome. Anyone? Is there anyone to put their question or comment? Okay, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Shofikul Alam. You can actually clear some points raised by our panelist. You have 3 minutes time.
Okay,
We
thank
have
you so much.
running shortage of time right now. We're behind
Thank you
the
so much,
schedule.
Amjad bhai. So yeah, and yeah, speakers actually raised all those pertinent points, and also Jahid bhai mentioned important points. So in relation to feed-in tariff, so what we did in this study and also our previous studies, charting an electricity sector transition pathway for Bangladesh, we assessed the feed-in tariff that of Vietnam that actually triggered their renewable energy revolution. So if we compare that tariff with our existing tariff, our tariff is much better. Despite it is not feed-in tariff, it is under net metering. So that is significantly better because it was $0.08, $0.0838 that actually triggered the rooftop solar revolution in Vietnam in 2020-2021 during the COVID-19, but it is far better in Bangladesh. However, we have other challenges that I agree. So that we also need to improve the system where we can lift the 70% cap and also import duties so that it will be even more better for us. And then in relation to payback, so it is still more than 5 years. However, earlier, I mean, few years back, the challenge was financial institutions had the restriction, particularly not about it called other financial institutions due to balance sheet mismatch. They could not finance project for more than 5 years in most cases. But central bank during the COVID period, so they now allow and in fact encourage all financial institutions to finance project even beyond 10 years. So now getting finance for rooftop solar project for 12 years, 12 years and even beyond is should not be a problem ideally. But yes, banks have private and commercial banks, they have their reservations. And in relation to that compulsion for industries that Ijaz sir has mentioned, yes, that is significant. Not only the CBAM, and particularly their buyers are already continuously pursuing them to clean their overall energy system. So rooftop solar is just a small fraction of that. And now they are not only many of, I mean, especially the smart ones, smart industries, they are not only willing to implement rooftop solar, but they are also looking for carbon credit from other countries, but they will not be able to do so. You know that the foreign currency issues. So they will have to find solution here. And in relation to captive generator, what he has mentioned, that is 6 taka, but I am doing an interesting study on that. Probably we'll release that in April, the current level of energy efficiency of this captive generator. And from there, we will calculate the actual cost of their energy generation, but that will be significantly more than taka 6. Earlier, it was taka 6, but due to the very high gas price, it is more than 6 now. But we will come up with the actual figure probably in April. But that is a good opportunity also to see the efficiency of captive generation, how it is compatible with the grid tariff and other things. So we'll come up with that. And in relation to Jahid bhai, that what he has mentioned related to zoning and planning, but due to time limitation, we could not mention here, but in our study, we'll share the link with all of you and the presentation. There we have mentioned about the big role of utilities on demand aggregation, how the utilities can do that in different zones. That will not only ensure the upscaling of the system, but also ensure sustainability, because utilities will then have the obligation to monitor the system, and that will also generate revenue for utilities. So I think, yeah, these are the ways we can take forward. And the comments that have the other speakers have mentioned, I think I will stop here because we also have time limitation, and it is also Ramadan time. So thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Alam, for your clarification and raise some good point. It is in the conclusive session now. I would like to request our special guest, Director for of South Asia, in the Institute of Energy, Economy and Financial Analysis, Ms. Vibhuti Garg, to share her thoughts with us. Ms. Vibhuti Garg.
Thank you. And a good morning and a good afternoon, everyone. It gives me immense pleasure to join this discussion today and be present with this esteemed group of people. Firstly, I know it's a holy month, so Ramadan Mubarak to all of you. And thank you, Shafiq, for excellent presentation and providing a roadmap for the solar rooftop deployment in Bangladesh. And it was also good to hear from the other speakers and see that some of the points that they mention are in alignment with kind of the recommendations we made in the IFA report on the solar rooftop. So if we come to today's discussion on the solar rooftop, I mean, I would say that, the cost economics and meeting demand sustainability will be the driving force for Bangladesh to deploy more solar rooftop. As we are seeing, Bangladesh is witnessing high electricity prices on account of rising input costs. I mean, we not only Bangladesh, but all other countries who have been dependent on imports of oil and gas, we did see a lot of price volatility in the global prices. And also we did witness it for the coal sector as well. So all these fossil fuels we are seeing are inflationary. So it makes economic sense for a country like Bangladesh to explore options that can meet its demand at low cost and also reduce reliance on imports. As Shafiq pointed out, the currency devaluation and also more importantly, I think for Bangladesh and even for India, this land conflict issue, solar rooftop or the decentralized renewable makes much more sense. In terms of, I did hear, some points on the business model for utilities, that there is a bankability issue, there is the rooftop space issue in terms of, for individuals to deploy solar rooftop. And then there are some other limitations in terms of 70% of capacity only of the contracted capacity one can deploy solar rooftop. So one of the way to go about addressing this issue can also be deploying or using distribution companies to aggregate this demand, or through a third-party RESCO model, which Shafiq had shown in his presentation, both the models, the advantages of aggregating through a RESCO or a DISCOM. But I did hear that, awareness is there, but mindset change is required. So some of the issues of using, rooftop space at individual household were mentioned as a key bottleneck. What we are seeing in India, I just wanted to bring some anecdotes from India here. Very, very similar issues are in India as well. If you'll see in India, we did have 40 gigawatt of solar rooftop capacity target by 2022. But even till December 2023, what we have achieved so far is 11 gigawatt. So while 11 gigawatt may look like a big number when it comes to solar rooftop in Bangladesh, but whereas if you will look at the targets that were set out in India, which were very high. So even in India, I mean, the commercial and industrial, 66% of the deployment happened with the CNI sector, but as far as the residential sector is concerned, where the electricity tariffs are hugely subsidized, the payback period is very large, and that is one of the big bottleneck here as well. So the way the government is planning to address, we are increasingly seeing new innovative business models such as virtual net metering and peer-to-peer trading coming up as big kind of mechanisms through which solar rooftop can be deployed. So just to give some explanation on what these models are all about. So in virtual metering, consumers are at different locations but can aggregate and source rooftop solar power from a single large solar plant. So virtual net metering can actually help bridge the gap between the utility scale and rooftop solar installation. And that will also address one of the big concerns that I've been hearing is what if the individual builds more capacity, then it will lead to sale of capacity to other, or through net metering, excess capacity would be sold to DISCOM. But if there is a way we can aggregate that demand through virtual net metering, I think that can definitely be a good model. And in peer-to-peer trading, consumers in the same DISCOM jurisdiction can trade excess solar power. So this provides an alternative to net metering, and this model ultimately, allows consumers to become energy prosumers. So both consumer as well as producer of electricity. Recently, the Prime Minister introduced the Suryodaya scheme, and that is also primarily to address especially a deployment of solar rooftop, which has not seen big progress in India. So that's also kind of helping kind of aggregate demand, and there are big rescos who will be responsible for setting up that big capacity. So government in India, rather than looking at from feed-in tariff, I think the way the government has supported solar rooftop deployment in India is through central financial assistance scheme. So they are providing big subsidies. Initially, it was 40% for a system of 3 kilowatt and 20% for 3 kilowatt to 10 kilowatt, and no subsidies for 10 kilowatt and above system. But now there is an absolute subsidy that is being given for a system of 3 kilowatt. And even for systems higher than 10 kilowatt, there is government subsidy being given. So through Suryodaya scheme, I think the best part that the government is trying is now that the big players like REC is lending money. So we have been hearing, financing is a big challenge. So to address the financing challenge, REC in India will be providing concessional capital, and the rest is 60% of its is being subsidized through Central Financial Assistance Program. So these are the kind of government support that is required for, till we see the prices of solar. We did hear about technology innovation, and we are seeing increasingly that the prices of solar rooftop deployment is going down. But right now, what is required is, these models to come up to improve bankability, then for financing, coming up with credit risk guarantees. Also, the blended finance instruments, where MDB, philanthropic money, public capital can play a big role in bringing these costs down, I think will be very, very essential for pushing the solar roof deployment in any country, and India is no exception. And we are using all these business models as well as government support programs to push for solar rooftop, because again in India, land is becoming increasingly scarce, and setting up big utility projects, I think that's why there's a big push for government on solar rooftop now. I will stop here, but yeah, these were some of the observation and some of the anecdotes I wanted to bring from India's solar rooftops. Limited success, I would say, not like a real successful case, but a limited success that we have seen in the industry so far.
Thank you, Ms. Gaur, for your nice input. Figures actually see a lot of things in India, but you didn't achieve your target, but you are growing fast in both the scales, the grid scale and rooftop solar. Thank you so much for joining. But it's now time to invite our chief guest. It's my pleasure to invite DG Power Cell, Engineer Mohammad Hussain, to invite here to speak something regarding the sector. Actually, he is the long experience in this sector as DG Power Cell, Mr. Mohammad Hussain. Mr. Mohammad Hussain.
Thank you, Mullah Amjad. Thank Shubha Energy and Power for arranging this dissemination workshop on scaling up rooftop solar deployment in Bangladesh. And Assalamu alaikum and Ramadan Mubarak. At the very outset, my sincere apology for joining late, as you know that one of my very close friends expired last night, and I had to join his namaz-e-janaza. So I couldn't, in fact, listen to the keynote speaker, Mr. Shafiqul Alam. However, I have got the essence of his paper from Mr. Alamgir Murshid, while I could join, and also from Professor Ijaz. I have seen that the BSREA President Mr. Nurul Akhtar was also in the list of the panel. I could understand at least the dimension of the discussion. So let me begin with give you some stock taking of this journey of solar rooftop. In fact, you know that this solar home system was introduced in the late 90s by Rural Electrification Board, when we had a limited access to grid, when 50% access to grid was there. And then we tried to empowering our people through solar home system. And you know that after that, there are so many pros and cons, particularly impediments and barriers of this solar home system. We had barriers as well as also success stories there, though it hardly being mentioned. Like you see these, when we had only 50% access to grid, and we could provide electricity to as good as 20 million people through installing 6 million solar home system, which was the lowest, highest ever in the world, highest program, biggest program in the world. So that is one success story. And in fact, we have this transmission to today's rooftop is a scaling up of their solar home system. And now you know that again, we have another success feather at our head, that is the Bangladesh has got the biggest rooftop, which is in Korean EPZ 40 megawatt rooftop. So sometimes we in fact ignore this sort of signal. Also, why this installation of 6 million solar home system was possible? That is also, there is another success story, that is ITCOL has developed a business model where the model could convince our marginal people who used to use kerosene for their evening light, and that could economically replace this kerosene lamp by this solar home system. So that is, and ITCOL model is still popular in other part of the world. Whenever we go anywhere, people used to ask this ITCOL business model. So we have got this stories. I know when I'm talking all these success stories, Professor Ijaz will raise that where are those 6 million solar homes? Because 100% access, grid access has already been ensured. So definitely the use of the necessity of this 6 million is no more, but still I think that is also a area where we could work. And you know that Solari is a farm where they are now rather connecting those standalone solar home system in a sort of microgrid, and they are providing electricity. So that is also a very good one that we should mention. Now, coming back to our this nowadays rooftop system, you know that yes, we had many bitter experience of having rooftop solar as a precondition to new connection. That has not worked because we couldn't show the consumers that it is beneficial for them. And now after introducing the net metering, now they can see that yes, it can easily cut their substantial billing cost, and that is how it is now working. And you know that this net metering, though Professor has mentioned some of the limitations, like 70% of his sanction load, also maximum 10%. That there is also a rationale over there. You see the utilities, they are developing their network, and our prosumer who used to be only the consumer of those utilities, now they are also a producer. and selling this electricity to the utilities or using the network of the utilities. In one way, they are losing their consumers. Other way, they are not, in fact, imposing any cost on their network development. So we have not, in fact, developed those modalities. That's why we have kept at the very beginning. But now we are thinking to, in fact, this amendment of this net metering guideline, and hopefully all these barriers will be removed. And we are also developing and thinking to develop a corporate PPA, which was discussed in this workshop, that there are some corporate bodies who have say distributed roofs, and they are also big consumer in some places. So if they can utilize their roofs through net metering in an accumulated way, and then it could be traded off with their the bulk consumption. So that is also under active consideration. Regarding the feed-in tariff, I think our keynote speaker Shafiq has already mentioned, and we have also observed that in some other countries, finally they couldn't accommodate these rooftop solars through this feed-in tariff, and they have to abandon that, discontinue this feed-in tariff facilities. So I think we are on the right track of having this net metering with some sort of modification in the guideline that will better work than even feed-in tariff. And grid constraint, definitely the grid limitations are there, but one good thing is that we have other concern to stabilize the grid for the nuclear. So once we address the nuclear power plant, these sort of small pieces, the rooftop solars issues will automatically, I think, addressed and solved. So that will not be a problem, and we are working very seriously. And our PGCB, they have now, that most of the projects are for transmission and distribution rather than any new projects for generation. And whatever projects are in the pipeline, most of the are your renewable energy projects. And one thing we have at least observed that this land constraint has taught us the lesson to go for rooftop. Again, when we found that this rooftop without net metering didn't work, then we have gone for net metering. So we are, in fact, you can say, transforming our technology in a better way, days after days. And I think that these are definitely working, and Mr. Shofik has also, I think, addressed all these issues. But again, we have also considered in the rooftops. You see, theoretically, I have found that the researchers or who are working in this, they are showing roofs in a lump sum way. But you know that nowadays these roofs are being used for gardening, roof gardening and other uses. And also the availability of sunlight is also a concern for some of the roofs. So altogether, these are the issues I think we have to look into while we think for scaling up our rooftop solar. At the end, I should say that the government is very serious about this scaling up our rooftop because we, whatever you opine or anybody has commented on this land, that we have land, we should utilize some of our lands. But the reality is that we have to look into seriously not to use our irrigable land, and roof is the only means. The government roofs, railways, and many other public sector buildings we can utilize, and we are working with those in a holistic way. One thing, the BPTB Jahid has told this. O&M is in fact basically the cleaning. So cleaning is a concern. So without business model, if this rooftops, the rooftop solar is being installed in a you can say individual way with the public money, I found that these are not being utilized properly. So business case, business model in a I think this OPEX system can work properly, and that is the way. And I think the way our grid tariff is increasing, we don't even need to motivate our consumers. They will automatically go for rooftop flow net metering. And I hope this will happen very rapidly. And having said that, I don't want to prolong my discussion, as I have observed that Mr. Amjad's time was 12:30 something like, so it has already exceeded. And thank you very much for inviting me to this very rich audience and panel to say something. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Engineer Mohammed Hussain, to join us and deliver some word for our guest as chief guest. And I request all of our participants to reopen your camera for finishing photo. And I ask the admin to take some photo. And it's my privilege when Energy and Power organize things with our partner like IFA or GIZ or other organization. You are supporting us always. We're grateful to thanks all of you to join with us, and hopefully we will able to invite you again in our next program organized by EP or EP Talks or EP Climate Talks or EP 30 Minutes Special, and we pray for all good health and long life, and stay fine. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.